Hello, myself Sunil R Nair, and here basically we are discussing about the currencies basically. So just now basically we discussed that basically each and every country basically have their uh, they basically have the investment plan done by the other countries and their investment plan in the country basically, and contributed by contribution of the investment by the other country basically, and contribution of their country itself. So like this each and every chart basically they have basically. So according to that only basically they do the action plans basically. So their future plan, their GDP basically, each and everything basically connects to this only basically. The USA also basically have the GDP. They basically have the also the plan basically. According to that basically, the chart basically which I already discussed, that basically the Indian government has and the Indian public basically done investment of this many percentage. This investment basically is equal to resources, monetary, businessman, each and every sectors basically, properties like this basically, each and every investments basically are there. 30 percentage, 40 percentage, 50 percentage, 60 percentage, 70 percentage, like this. According to that basically the actions basically are designed by the software company. So that investment basically is one chart basically. According to the chart basically the set of actions basically are taken, and the actions basically are equal to set of softwares also basically, you can say basically that they execute this software, execute that software, and according to that software basically the system gets activated basically, that this system has to get activated. And nowadays basically the everything basically is connects to the system only basically. So system are equal to, you can say, one software basically, and one software company also, you can say. So like this basically each and every things basically are connected. Like this basically one of the businessmen basically told that basically we basically are basically doing the investment basically according to the government is selling, right? So government says that basically do this much investment basically in this USA basically, but they never told that basically us that that basically the American USA government basically is having one chart basically in front of that basically, and according to that basically they are telling, they are basically designing the investment plan for Indian government basically and for the Indian businessmen, and that investment basically done by the Indian government and Indian public basis, sorry, the Indian businessmen and Indian government, they are, that is basically directly connecting to the Indian public basically, who are staying in the who are staying in the USA basically, that are 22 crore. So 22 crore people basically who are staying in USA basically, that are basically done on the base of the certain investment basically, which is basically done by fun few American people basically say that our Indian government in our Indian people, sorry, in India basically our people are also basically there. If we want to take for example 22 crore people are there, so they basically talks to the Indian public basically, they see basically this person basically is in India basically, can you please do some action basically against him, like this whole message also basically they do, and they basically take the action also basically, that also we are going to discuss later on. So like this basically they say that basically they saw that they basically say that like this basically the Indian government basically has done this many investment, and like this many investment basically is done, so on the base of certain level of investment basically the investment charter basically has prepared by the American government. So like this basically they say that basically American government literally have the investment basically which is done by the Indian public and by the Indian businessmen and by the Indian government. So like this the investment can be in the form of the resources also basically, and the resources can be very any types of resources basically they require as per their and basically USA government says that basically there our people are also basically there here in India basically, who do our task basically. I have told that Indian businessmen basically who basically earns the dollar, they are basically doing our task because we don't have direct authority, and Indian government has given the authority on the base of the on the businessman basically. So that businessman group basically takes the action and do the plan, and they basically gets also basically soon basically they will get everything basically, the task basically which is told by the American government. So that is also basically we are going to discuss soon basically, what are the basically things basically the Americans tells and the Indian basically businessmen basically do, and basically what they do, and according to what the things happens, that also we are going to discuss basically. So like this basically he told that basically like this basically the investment basically chart is basically prepared, and that is basically kept in front of the Indian American government, and they basically keeps on watching basically. It's currently 30%. They only whenever the Indian people basically talk happens, where whenever basically they are doing the meeting of the Indian government, sorry, by the Indian people, that are the 22 crore people basically how they are staying, so they keeps the investment chart in front of there, and they say that basically what is the investment, just see basically they see periodically basically, but they never say basically direct, because it's a secret na basically. Then say basically basically investment is basically this much here basically. So what should we do? Then basically they will say that just keep watch basically, because there are lots of Indian also basically na, in American government. So like this basically they say just we will do one thing, we will wait for some time basically. If basically they will, I will talk to them basically, please do investment like this, because the investment is very less like that, each and everything basically, because 22 crore people are staying basically, according to that the investment is very less. I think you can also basically understand like this basically the talk basically happens like this basically. The Indian people are also basically within the Indian government, sorry, in the American government. Like this basically the American government also basically have Indian people. Like this basically also some group has done the plan. So like this basically things are also basically there. So like this basically they told that basically yes, here basically 22 crore people basically are staying in USA, so basically according to that basically what investment plan should they the Indian businessmen and Indian government should do, can we tell them directly basically like this? Then the American government told that that will be very bad here basically, but what to do? So we will tell directly basically them, please invest this much money basically. So like this also people basically are there basically. So that's basically the lots of people says that American people basically are how much basically good people they are basically. Just but this thing basically is also there basically, that basically you can't ignore it. So like this basically investment things basically are of the, so this basically thing basically just now basically which we discussed as in the form of the story of the American government and of the American businessmen, that is fact, and that basically Indian government and Indian businessmen also basically know, and that is also fact. So that basically connects what basically Indian government relationship, American government. This basically example I have taken just to connect the currencies to currencies dependency. So like this the Indian government currency is there, American government currency is there. So according to that investment chart basically which is with the American government, that is actually one big software basically, you can say that is the basically portfolio of 22 crore people basically who are staying in the America, and basically entire chart of that 22 crore people basically, that also you can say entire basically you can say horoscope of the 22 crore people basically, that 22 crore people basically are staying in USA. This is the horoscope of the each and every public basically who are staying in India. They basically literally send the data basically to Indian government basically. So this is the basically 22 crore people basically, and against that basically this is the investment. They basically directly can't tell basically, but they indirectly basically they says basically. So like this basically the, because they say that basically the parliament expense, just see the parliament expense, just see the road expense, just see the light bill expense, just see the basically the expense basically for earthquake is not supposed to happen, that expense is there, no, basically we have to pay that much expense basically, so that the America basically in America the earthquake is not supposed to happen, that also amount we have to pay, or lots of basically expense basically are there. Then they directly basically they don't say basically invest this much basically, but the according to the investment chart basically you have to basically do the investment, like these things basically happen. So like this basically the each and every currencies to currencies basically gets effects, currencies to currencies. So here the currency is Indian currency and the American currency, both gets connects with the help of the relationship also. So this was one story basically which is connecting directly to the currency amount basically, and going to 100% going to fluctuate the amount. So next video we are going to see a little bit more about this.